I need a username. And I have a great one. Little Kid Lover. That way people will know exactly where my priorities are at.
By the way, he gave me permission to touch him.
Actually talking about there at the NRA meeting that's today in Texas. Someone should bomb that building.
Day 66, being a girl, and today I'm in nature. Trees, I love them. Water, lakes, I love them. Heels, they're my hiking heels. I love them.
Shocked by it, some of your bashing it because I don't like gay people. I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay. Do you understand that? Crap.
Everybody is going to get to know each other in the pot. I'm serious about this stuff.
What a stupid son of a bitch.
I enjoy having breakfast in bed. I like waking up to the smell of bacon. Sue me.
How dare you!
And your favorite dish?
My favorite dish? I like mugs because they're very comfortable in your hand and they hold hot things.
Describe your perfect day.
I have to say April 25th.
If I had a gun with 2 bullets and I was in a room with Hitler, Bin Laden, and Toby, I would shoot Toby twice. Okay,
you were
alright.
really funny, and then you went too far.
It was bad. It was bad for Trump to
Keep alive the truth and honor of the Holocaust. Horror of the Holocaust.
Fuck.
Is it bad advice to say, like, go outside Ted Cruz's house and just shoot in the air?
Yes.
Yes.
Why are you running? Why are you running?
You shout like that, they put you in jail. Right away. No trial, no nothing.
Sexism in gaming.
Journalists, we have a special jail for journalists.
Scroats McGoat says, last night as a member, if Tim doesn't disavow Elijah tonight, get the out, Scroats McGoat. Bye.
If you don't like it, don't watch it. Peace.
Out, bitch. Yeah, you like guns outside your house.
Get a fake tactical nuke.
Oh my god! Okay, it's happening! Everybody stay calm! What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure?
Oh, you know it, lad. You know that it's not Pfizer. I'm coming to kill you! In Los Angeles, at your house! Or in the ring? No, in real life!
But yeah, it's the best I could do on short notice for an intro. You know, I haven't really had a chance to look into this whole Project Veritas thing. I've seen the rumors coming out the last couple days. I've seen some of the reporting on it. I haven't really it's like the board is making a lot of claims. I didn't even realize how many claims there were. At first you heard, oh, he's just a hard guy to work for. And then it's, oh, we're sending him on a paid vacation. But don't worry, he's definitely not going anywhere. Then it's turned into, okay, he is gone, but it's his fault because he wouldn't work with us. But here's a list of reasons why we had to get rid of him. So this whole thing has gone from like bad to worse, like in no time. So I know that he released a statement. It is really funny that this whole thing has come out. Him getting forced to resign, him, being forced to step down. This tweet he's got here from 2 weeks ago, 16, about how Facebook, Instagram are threatening to restrict or ban Project Veritas. And these happened like a few weeks ago when all these initial reports are coming out that there's, oh, he's on paid leave and there's some allegations and he's just, he's just too hard to work for and he's a really bad guy. And it's like, okay, if those things are true, which who knows, the fact of the matter is this seems like a lot more of a reason to force him out, plus the text messages that he leaked involving a journalist, Pfizer, the whole thing, right? I tried looking up who the board members are for Project Veritas. Unfortunately, that's not something I can actually find. I don't know how you find that. I don't know where you would find that at. Like, to be honest, I have no clue where to even begin looking. I mean, I've dug into stuff before, but like, unless there's like a public filing or something, as far as like the board of trustees and all that kind of stuff goes, I don't even know where to begin looking to see who the board members are and see. Because again, my suspicion is there's people on that board that are making money off their Pfizer stock, and they were rattled. They got, somebody got to them. That's if, it could just be that the whole Project Veritas thing was just controlled opposition from the get-go, and James O'Keefe was the only guy there that actually gave a damn. Who knows? But we're going to make this a short one tonight because I've got a massive storm going on outside, wind and all that. Trees are probably going to fall on some power lines not too far from me, so we're going to try to keep this brief tonight. I don't want to be up till 1 o'clock in the morning. Although that's fun. I don't hate it. We're going to try to bust through this one topic tonight and kind of get to the bottom of what's going on here. So I guess we will start with this video because I actually haven't watched more than about a 60-second clip of this. So we're going to dive into this here. Full volume on the speakers. Okay.
I think it's fitting that, we're here on President's Day. So I wrote these so I could get the words right, but it's obviously from the heart, and I wanted to do this in person with you all, not over a Zoom or Teams, and he's going to film it. And
what a messy desk.
And these are intended just for the family here.
I
at
hate
Project
to critique,
Veritas,
but that's a damn messy desk right there.
I recognize that when you send something out to 60 people, but I'm not going to do that today. So I just wanted to tell you the truth. So I'm going to read this, and I'm going to try my best to, speak from the heart, but I did write these words, and I want to tell you what's going on. So here we go. It's going to take me about 15 minutes to do this.
15, but it's a 44-minute
Journalism
video.
is reporting things powerful people want kept hidden for the wrong reasons.
We're just going to push through
moral wrongs, bad behaviors. As journalists, we're the custodians of the public's conscience. And as we've gone deeper and deeper exposing and illuminating corruption, the lies hidden from public view, the line that separates good and evil becomes more clear. Not just in the institutions we investigate, but within one another. Throughout my 13 years doing this, our mission has evolved from simply being about exposing the truth with some hidden cameras to something more transcendental, giving people hope, right? That's what we do. And I'm going to stand here because I just feel like I'm filming a video for the audience.
More black pill than hope, but yeah.
And as we ascended into that higher purpose, which I think we all understand that we have suffered through triumph and disaster along the way in a similar fashion to what I wrote about in my book. The first chapter was called Suffering. So the line that separates good and evil passes not through the states, nor classes, nor political parties, but right through every single human heart, to quote Solzhenitsyn. So that line in the sand becomes more clear the deeper we go in investigating these powerful institutions. So over the last few weeks, I have felt a lot of despair and seen a lot of evil, and felt overcome with various emotions over the last few weeks. You could say I've seen glimpses of heaven and hell, of darkness and light. But what I take away from these is the gratitude that I have.
Honestly,
for many.
One thing that's going through my mind right now, despite the board ousting him, what the reason is, he's a bad guy, he's a good guy, he's a victim, hard guy to work for, he's exposing things the board doesn't want to expose, whatever the actual reasons are. And the thing that I'm having a hard time grappling is, not only have you seen Crowder versus The Blaze, which was actually really subdued. It was just, okay, we're going to go our separate ways. Then it turned into Crowder versus Daily Wire. Then it turned into Tim Pool versus everybody. Now it's Sidney Watson versus The Blaze. Now we got Project Veritas against James O'Keefe. Now you got the media creating this whole DeSantis versus Trump thing, when the reality is there's nothing to it. There's nothing there, but it looks good for optics. It looks good for the media to have this whole DeSantis versus Trump thing going on. It's just really weird timing.
Many of you, for most of you, and
have you watched this whole 45-minute video? I just started it. It's literally 44 minutes long, so it's going to be oh no, you're fine. The microphone doesn't pick up background noise.
There's such goodness in so many of you that I have seen And I'm grateful for that. And the generosity and goodwill we have steadily built over the past 13 years with so many people. I've received thousands of text messages.
What are you looking for?
And phone calls from people all over the world concerned about my well-being. But as I was going through this process, I reflected upon my appreciation for many of you. What makes us great is that we do this work because we actually believe in it, right? We actually believe in this. It shocks people that we do, and we have a passion for it, and we have principle. Like I know, we don't sell out. I think that's fair, at least most of us. We have a passion for doing the right thing in a visual way.
The funny thing is I didn't even realize that Project Veritas was so big that they had a board. That's the crazy thing, because people say James Okeefe is Project Veritas. That's not even a joke. Like most of us who just casually watch Project Veritas's videos when they expose somebody or they're the center of some controversy, most of us don't even realize that Project Veritas has a board. Hey, Choke, not too much going through this video.
No matter what, that's what binds us.
I haven't watched this one yet.
I know many of you have experienced this despair alongside of me in the last couple weeks. One of you just told me the other day that you'd go work at Walmart at the night shift so that you could do this during the day. That's what one of you said to me. I believe you. Rather than sell out. In fact, I know this is true for many of you, and many more out there who wish to be part of this.
Somebody sold out.
I remember back in the beginning, 13 years ago,
unless he's a
when
great
I had
liar and we're
no
all
money,
duped, but honestly, I don't feel that way.
I would have to use bubble gum, duct tape. I think you were around during that time. I keep looking at you because I've known you since Andrew Breitbart. And my grandmother's chinchilla, I literally had to place a Project Veritas sticker on a piece of cardboard that I ripped off from my dad's cardboard and stick it to a microphone at Radio Shack because I had no money to buy a flag mic. And this was after experiencing the meteoric high of the Acorn story. If
I'm being honest, again, I hate defending people I don't know. I hate going after people I don't know without any credible evidence, right? But aside from the weird claims, it went from he's on paid leave to, okay, well, he's on temporary suspension, but we've tried for 2 weeks to make things to make up with him, and then they release a whole list of, oh well, he spent all this money and all this crazy shit, and oh, we've got over 100 complaints. It just feels like it's getting blown out of proportion because they flat out want him gone. I don't know.
Up and I was down.
I unfollowed Project Veritas on Twitter. It sounds like there's a counter going.
Low. Back in the carriage house,
of people unfollowing
resorting once again to bubblegum and duct tape to achieve the NPR investigation that took us yet again to a meteoric high. I was so broke that I had to scribble my name and phone numbers on pieces of paper because I had no business cards.
Hey, no shame in that.
And so the saga
my family's
continues.
Business after all these years doesn't even use
Back
business
then,
cards.
there were no employees and no budget. But I felt the same sensation this week. I feel the sensation right now. As Steve Jobs once wrote about being fired from Apple, the company he founded, quote, the heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again.
The question really comes down to what is James going to do after this? Because okay, so he started a company, right? So he created this thing, and where does he go from here? What do you do? Because obviously, he's a very well-off guy. I'm sure he's got plenty of money in savings and stocks and all the other crap. I'm sure he's going to be financially fine. But starting from scratch, no matter how much money you have in savings, he's not some billionaire. He can't just start another company tomorrow. Does he go back to he grabs his camera and his microphone and goes back out on the street? I mean, okay, with his reputation, that's not safe. He can't do that. He can't afford a team of security guards 24/7.
It freed me to enter one of the most creative periods of my life. So back then I trudged
Unless
on.
he has more money than I thought.
From the back of a stretch limo in D.C., two guys, I was on federal probation, so I couldn't be there, but two of my volunteers, dressed like Muslim Brotherhood fundamentalists, armed with hidden cameras. Project Veritas was born again in 2011 for a second time. A couple of donors eventually became 100,000 donors present day. 13 years later.
Let everyone know the power is really
after almost a decade and a half of 85-hour work weeks, sometimes traveling 300 days a year. I'm on the road, packing multiple meetings in a day.
I believe that.
And plenty of blood, sweat, and tears, the likes of which I could never have possibly fathomed. The external threats and pressure inflicted against myself and some of us has been unimaginable. I'm going to summarize them. Handcuffed by the FBI on 2 separate occasions, 12 years apart. Having my phones confiscated and private information leaked to the New York Times. Being placed on effective house arrest for 3 years between May of 2010 and May of 2013. Being sued dozens of times. Being served 2 separate criminal grand jury subpoenas in New Hampshire in the last 10 years. Getting pursued in a high-speed chase by a New Jersey education union official on Interstate 80 in Passaic.
I think I remember that one.
Deposed many times. Suffered through mediation with insurance companies where they had all of our emails. They had everything. But they evidently didn't have anything on me. Getting my home raided by the FBI. Having my loved ones put in handcuffs.
Okay, no, that's a really good point.
And
that
having
is
our
a very
office
good
destroyed
point.
by a hurricane.
The fact that he's been deposed, the fact that he's had the FBI raid his house, the fact that he's like the person, unless he just has like a squeaky clean lifestyle, like he had make sure all the computers are nothing dirty on him, nothing that can get him in trouble, and like all other crap. He has been deposed, investigated, arrested, raided. Project Veritas, the board, has all these complaints apparently that they are sitting on. They're saying, oh, we've got all these complaints against him. Obviously nothing like bad, nothing criminal, because he's been under the frickin' microscope.
Hurricane, literally a hurricane, which forced us into a temporary workplace before rebuilding and stirred up disgruntled employees, including grievances about me, which I will get to in a minute. The list goes on.
I wonder if he was looking
Even
at the
so,
employee.
as a former board member told me 10 years ago, Project Veritas
Imagine
will
having
never
the balls to be in that
stopped from
room
the
if you were
outside.
one of the disgruntled
It will
employees.
only be because we stopped ourselves, right? I'll get to that too in a minute. Prophetic as it may be, that is exactly where we find ourselves in the situation today. A situation where I have been stripped of my authority as CEO and removed from the board of directors. I bet you didn't know that. I'll get to that in a minute. Contrary to what public statements may say. And by
I
the
want to
way,
know
I
who's
have
on the board of
copies for this.
directors.
I will
I
not
want to
give
know
them
if there's
you
a way
yet.
to find
I will
out.
give them to you after I'm done. And there are board minute meetings, which you'll all get a copy of, that read as follows. Quote, James Okeefe indefinitely suspended as CEO without compensation. February 10th. Yes. Quote, indefinite suspension of James Okeefe from the board. Dated February 10th, 5 days before the statement, saying that I'm still the CEO.
That's crazy.
I don't know why this is happening now.
Yeah, I can
Or
see that.
specifically why this is happening suddenly.
I can totally
right now.
understand that, Choke. I get that.
As you know, at the helm of Veritas, I've never allowed or entertained speculation.
Like I said, I'm not comfortable defending somebody that I don't know personally, that I only know from seeing in clips of little gotcha sting, videos online. But I can't imagine that there's much actual credible evidence against him, as much as he's been looked into by different people in the governments and
only report
again,
the facts.
FBI and all that.
I think you know this. You're involved in hiring.
I'm sure he's a pain in the ass to work for.
But don't you know that so many people want to
So
go
is Elon
beyond
Musk.
the facts?
So is a lot of other people.
I'm
like that.
adamant that I'm only going to stick.
Successful people are not necessarily easy to work for, and I'm a believer that you're supposed to treat your employees with respect and treat them fairly. You know, you'd have to be in his business, yeah. So it's tough because I'm in that situation where I've, especially working with family my whole life, I've seen the ups and downs of having a bad employee. Because, it's like when you have family, people don't treat employees the same way because they feel like you can just kind of bring them into the family and go, no, you still have to give those people like the same boundaries as a regular employee. You can't expect them to pitch in like a family member because they're not part of the family. So in respect to that kind of thing, it's like I've seen people who like lose their cool on employees, and it's like you can't do that because they're just an employee. You can't have a screaming match because you had a bad day. That's the downside of working with your family. That kind of stuff happens more. You do that at a real job, you'll get fired or suspended or whatever. But successful people, I would just imagine by their nature are not going to be the easiest people to work for, because they're going to have drive and determination and passion, and they're going to be demanding. Doesn't give them the right to cross certain boundaries, obviously, but there's going to be a certain level of I expect this because this is what I put out, and I want you to match it if you're going to be here.
To the facts. So much so that sometimes we don't hire people if they want to pontificate and opine about what's going on in society. And I've had people leave because they don't agree with this vision, okay, of what a journalist ought to do. But fortunately, I have recordings and documents to back up everything I'm about to tell you. So everything I'm about to tell you, I have documentation and proof. So you don't have to say I wasn't there.
This is the thing I'm curious about. I want to see what he says he has.
And watch it for yourself. So, I'm about a quarter of the way through here. Bear with me. For the last 13 years, I've been the same person I've always been, probably better than I used to be. These are adjectives some people used. Tough, hard-charging, driven, creative, exacting. I have extremely high standards, and somewhat disorganized. I don't ask
those
you
are all
how your
things
Thanksgiving was.
That are signs of
okay?
somebody who's hard to work for.
Or
That's
the names
fine.
of your
No.
siblings. Although a good leader probably should. I don't do that. I ask a lot of you, but I don't ever ask you to do anything I haven't myself done and continue to do. I haven't always been the most compassionate leader, and that is admittedly a fault of mine, something I need to work on. But I remember when I was back in the carriage house in the beginning, there was a journalist in the beginning, and he pointed this out to me. He said, you need to be more compassionate. Ask me about my life. And it hurt him that I wasn't more compassionate towards him. Personally, I told him it was difficult for me to change myself. But this experience stayed with me, and I always have known this about myself. I've tried to do a better job of that, but the truth is I've been very hurried, very busy, pressed for time every day, trying to pack in so much in a day. I think you all know this in meetings. I'm busy because I'm trying to get so much done in an hour, all the while moving at the speed of light to raise as much money, to hire more people, to take care of you guys in a fundamental way, although I may not be good at communicating the reasons why I am that way.
It's really funny because this is something I have experienced in just working with family, that you will see with a lot of people, different personalities, different focuses. Everyone's got a different... It goes back to the silly, the love language. What's your love language thing? Okay. Even in a business, you're going to have employees who they get appreciation from their employer. Like, okay, I feel like I'm appreciated if you do X, Y, or Z. If you say, hey, good job on this today, or if they see it in their paycheck, or if they see it in, they're given respect by their employer, their coworkers, that kind of stuff. Everyone's going to act different. So I understand what he's saying. For me, it's a pet peeve of mine when people don't show, not compassion, not like someone's having I stubbed my toe and I'm going to make it, a bigger deal than it is. I'm talking like genuine, human compassion. People who don't empathize at all, that I would say that's a pet peeve of mine, because I can empathize with most people, even if I'm not going to be like, oh, poor you, whatever. It's like someone's got it worse than you out there, right? But I can understand what he's getting at. You're driven people who are driven to be successful, to achieve things, that they're always on the go. They don't have time to be compassionate, and this is definitely not a great thing. He said himself it might be a fault of his. They don't have time to be compassionate. They're not going to stop and worry about everybody's feelings that they're hurting, or if you're having a bad day, which...
I'm doing as much as I humanly possibly can so I could build this place out and do more. And that's what we did every year, each year since 2010. Growing every year, sometimes doubling our revenue, doubling our impact. I have a chart here which I get.
Revenue for 2020 was 22 million. Damn. Yeah, I want to know... Oof. I want to know who the board members are now.
And I'm going to hand to you the chart of the growth every year. I have never slowed down. I recognize that perhaps I should, but number one, there's a trade-off to slowing down.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, I need the right leaders around me in order to do that. So along the way, there has been much turnover, replacing people with better people. This was painful to me and to many of you who witnessed it. But that has always been happening since day one. There was turnover 10 years ago when I had to fire a friend from college.
Absolutely,
Let's
Chuck.
just, maybe hold on.
And I don't fault him one bit for that. Like that.
So I'll make sure that everyone has a copy of this.
I don't know. Like it sucks
and
to see somebody
canned. And I don't intend
canned.
to publish this. This is
especially
for you
somebody
guys
who really wants to do something.
internally.
Somebody who's trying to do a good job. But at the same time, it's like, You
I had
gotta
10
have the
years
right
ago, I had
people
to
do
fire
the
a friend
job.
from Rutgers.
That's why
That
meritocracies
hurt
work.
me. It took me
No.
months to get over this. I never discussed this. I felt for him, but it was the conflict that ate at me, but I had to do it. See, leadership has a price, and results often come at a human cost. Maybe fewer in this world, present day, are willing to pay that price. Many people want the fruits of leadership, such as its power, results, Twitter followings, secondary effects.
And we still got 32 minutes to go.
But the price of the responsibilities, burdens, trials, hardships, difficult decisions, or just sheer suffering, I don't think people want that. And all through the years, things fundamentally continued on an upward trajectory for this place, albeit turnover. And I'm a hard guy to work for sometimes. We file our annual tax return.
Oh, yeah.
A public tax return is required by the IRS.
It's not fun.
And my compensation is set by an independent board of directors via a compensation committee. 4 times a year, our chief financial officer
the only way
has
you can
submitted
look at
company
that
financials
is
to
that
the
hopefully those people take that experience, they figure out the things that they can excel at, they figure out the things that they actually are good at, that they can show some passion and some drive, excel at those things, and do better somewhere else. You can't keep somebody around who essentially is bad at their job or dead weight just because you feel bad for them. And that's the thing. It's like that sucks to say, because I feel like, God, that's like soul crushing, right? To have to fire somebody, to have to let someone go, to have to lay someone off. But at the same time, it doesn't benefit anybody, especially the person who's still there doing a bad job at something. Just keep them around as dead weights.
Board, that's every quarter, and our board approves it in quarterly meetings. All 3 members of the C3 were present, and we have subjected both the C3 and the C4 to audits from outside independent accounting agencies each and every year. That happens. That has always been happening. Nothing about how I've conducted myself over the past 13 years has really fundamentally changed. Until now. So what has changed in the last 3 weeks?
It's a big
What has
bottle of
changed?
water. I drink these little ones from
The
Costco.
only thing that has
That
changed
thing is huge.
is that we broke the biggest
Oh,
story in
man.
our organization's history. You know that one I'm talking about? Pfizer. The last week of January, with 50 million views. That broke the record by 10x. Our video became a global phenomenon. It was about Pfizer.
Yeah, that video
and one
got
of the
taken off
directors
YouTube, didn't
discussing mutating the virus. Our confrontation video, where he locked me in a pizza restaurant with you, and he smashed the equipment and called the police, that became a phenomenon and was riveting television for our audiences glued to their screens. That was probably one of my favorite things that ever happened. It was just really unbelievable. It was like true to be false and seemingly too false to be true, but it was real.
It felt scripted. I'm telling you, watching that video for the first time,
Hello,
I couldn't
come on in.
believe the way the guy was acting. It felt scripted.
Just giving a few remarks to the team here, so you came at the right moment. So the only thing that changed were these videos. Outlets in India and China covered the story, and our social media exploded like never before. Our employees and board members' Twitter accounts also exploded like never before.
I believe that.
Pfizer even put out a non-denial denial, like you always capture these things, where they basically admitted they were mutating the virus, albeit they buried this admission in jargon.
I'm probably going to have to delete this
But it
live
was
stream
still an
later.
admission. And it was extraordinary
Anything
that
that
Pfizer
has-
responded to us
Anything that has the word
with an
Pfizer in
admission,
it
not
just gets
denying
buried or-
that this guy was who he was. What an amazing turn of events.
Yeah.
That is the only thing that's changed in 13 years of me being who I am. And then suddenly, an unusual emergency happened just a few days after that. I think we have one more person here, if we could let him in. So suddenly, an unusual...
22 million in revenue for 2020. How many employees does Project Veritas have? That's a lot of money. Let's see. Executive Director at Project Veritas, former Goldman Sachs Managing Director. Oh. Ooh. I'll have to look that one up.
And I'm going to take you through this. I'm going to take you through what happened. Some of you don't know these things. Hello. We're talking about the story we broke. An unusual emergency happened. On Thursday, February 2nd, that's a few days after the Pfizer story, I was informed by an officer of Project Veritas on the phone while en route to the airport that he would resign unless I stepped down as CEO. We've been having a conflict of visions, him and
This
I,
was the CFO,
over
I
fundraising.
think. The chief financial
I guess
officer.
no one from fundraising is here. I don't know. There were tactical disagreements about the boldness of approaches soliciting donations. I was told, and I'm paraphrasing, by asking for X dollars right now, you will prevent 10X dollars down the road. That advice ran contrary to everything I knew to be true in my 13 years of fundraising.
What the hell?
But that conflict was even more fundamental and essentially boiled down to this. And my vision, I'm going to paraphrase Howard Rourke, the architect, quote, I don't build in order to have donors. I have donors in order to build. That's what I believed, and I felt like we had a conflict of visions. We don't measure our success only in terms of how much money we bring in. We measure our success in terms of our impact. Remember
That
Acorn?
doesn't make any sense. That sounds like the guy saying we gotta hold off on getting donations now because we need to go after the bigger fish later on. But if the bigger fish are the ones that I think they are, it's people who aren't going to be liking the reporting they're doing, which would make sense that he doesn't like the fact that they just broke the whole Pfizer story. This whole thing is dirty, man. This is so freaking dirty.
I don't think I raised a single dollar off that. I had a stack of media coverage to the ceiling. We measure our success in terms of what we produce, not just in terms of our wallets. That was a pretty fundamental conflict, I felt. The day prior, I had informed him in front of his colleagues that if he wasn't willing to follow my lead, he'd be shown the door. I tried to deal with it privately, but I was unsuccessful, and the disagreement boiled over publicly in a staff meeting. The next day, this individual refused to resign, so I fired him.
Yeah, this
Later
is one
that
of those
same
things
day,
where the board
that's
apparently said
Thursday,
he doesn't have the
February
authority
2nd,
to do
a
it,
few
and I have
days
no
after
idea.
the 50 million viewed Pfizer videos, I was informed by a different officer of Project Veritas that he would go to the board in a few hours from that moment and have an emergency vote to restructure this company, receiving an agenda in my email while I was sitting on an airplane tarmac with the doors closing.
Oh. So he actually had the authority at the time and they wanted to restructure after he fired the CFO. Interesting. That's what that's at least, I'm guessing, I'm assuming. I'm trying to fill in the blanks here just as I'm watching this.
The meeting was scheduled for the moment that my plane landed in Nashville. It became clear to me in that moment I would be removed from my position at Project Veritas by the time I landed at my destination. I bet you didn't know that. I have a copy of the emergency meeting here for you guys to take a look at. It's in writing. You could read it. You don't have to be there. You can read the minutes. They're official board minutes. They're written by a lawyer. My first question on the phone to this guy, my colleague, as I was staring at this agenda when the stewardess was asking me to get off the phone, was, quote, what are we going to tell our supporters if I'm removed from my position?
Yeah,
I think that's the first question. I had 100 questions, but that was the first one.
I mean,
my colleague, who is an officer of Project Veritas, responded by saying our supporters wouldn't have to find out.
What does that
sounds like
mean?
something you would get in the Claire McCaskill campaign. It sounds like something you'd. It sounds like something you would expose. I was so shocked by this, and again, the stewardess was asking me to get off the phone. I guess you could say that I was in a state of complete shock. How would our supporters not be informed of such an enormous thing? It was a lapse in judgment so severe that it was itself a fireable offense. To make a statement like that.
That's an asinine thing to say.
It was a lapse in judgment so severe, it was impossible to hide my removal from my position at Veritas to anybody. As the CEO and chief fundraiser, I have to explain the context of my role to thousands of people, 300 days a year on the road, while soliciting them for funds so that I can pay you. And I knew many of our supporters and donors would not like that change.
Oh, it totally sounds like they had
if I was removed from the chief decision maker at the organization I founded. I share who we are, our vision, our structure, our strategy with everybody. In fact, hiding something so fundamental.
Makes me wonder if the CFO and him butting heads was actually planned. I know that sounds a little conspiratorial, but like knowing that they could use that to give the board what they needed to push him out. I don't know. I wouldn't put it past anybody at this point. I don't trust anyone.
People is something that we stand against in principle.
Hey, Invictus.
Particularly with the amount of scrutiny that we're under. The doors closed, the plane took off, but somehow, over the next few hours, I was able to convince the board to push this emergency meeting to that Monday, February the 6th. The very next day, and this is where things gets really bizarre.
Wait. Dear board members, I'd like to request an emergency PVA joint board of directors meeting as soon as possible to address the following proposed agenda items. The dissolution of PVA as an entity. Huh? The board had a guy who used to work on CNN. Yeah, somebody else said that apparently Daniel Strack, who's the executive director at Project Veritas, is a former Goldman Sachs managing director. Not sure if that has any bearing on this, but there's a lot of there's a lot more questions than there are answers, you know?
So fasten your seatbelts. The very next day, on Friday, this is now Friday, February 3rd, a board member reached out to one of our journalists.
This is the only
stated,
clip I've
quote,
seen from this previously.
You get a raise if there is a restructure without James Okeefe at Project.
How would a journalist know? Wait, let me go back a second. Let me go back 1 second.
A board member reached out to one of our journalists.
Board member reached out to a journalist. Okay.
And stated, quote, you get a raise if there is a restructure without James Okeefe at Project Veritas. I have a copy of the text message, and I'll give it to all of you. I redacted the name of the journalist. The board member deleted the message, but not before our journalist took screenshots. Good job, journalist.
That is insane. Right, and that's the thing. It's like you don't have to. I mean, okay, this is speaking as somebody who's only ever been part of a business where it's like an LLC and it's my family's business and stuff, and now it's a sole prop and I'm just a 1099 commissioned salesperson. It's like, we'll buy you out, yeah. So, I mean, I would imagine the number one incentive for boards, like for a company like this to have a board, to have a board of directors and investors and shares on the stock market and going public, the entire point of it is to have security, tax breaks, and make money, right? I would assume those are like the three big reasons. Problem is when you try to do those things rather than just being one dude with some employees that goes around filming people and has to worry about, I'm sure that there's certain layers of protection. There's things with retirement. I don't know. There's got to be reasons that he decided to do it the way he did. It would be really interesting now to go back over the last 10 years, because he said that in 2011 is when Project Veritas really got going again. I guess, after some bumps in the road. So it'd be funny to kind of trace back the last 12 years and see when it became the entity that we have now. I mean, he showed in the revenue that the revenue was like a few million, and all the way up to 2020 was like 22 million or something for the whole year. I don't know. It'd be
on Sunday, February 5th, now that's Sunday, 2 days after the Friday, a board member requested my presence at his home.
Not creepy at all.
He informed me, quote, you had nothing to do, James, with this Pfizer story, unquote.
Oh, how could he not regret it?
Perplexed by this, I took out my iPad and showed him a video of myself confronting the Pfizer executive, which had 11 million views on YouTube. He responded, quote, but that was after the undercover video had already been done, unquote.
What?
I pointed out that the brave journalist, and many of you know who this person is, I'm not going to name anyone, who recorded the interaction was someone that I had to sit down over a year prior, remember, over dinner, for hours, talking off the proverbial ledge, insisting he take the long, arduous road to get the story about Pfizer, and indeed he did. The board member, responding to me saying that, said he did not know that, and admitted that another board member was persuading him to the contrary.
Oh my God.
In the meeting, we're fast forwarding to Monday, 2 weeks ago, on the 6th, I offered an apology letter to the board for my tone of voice in the office at the leadership meeting.
Okay, yeah, so here's the thing, And they've got a laundry list of things that they listed. I saw the on Project Veritas's website the message from the board of all these bad behavior things on his part. Nothing that looks like anything criminal. Nothing like, oh, he sexually assaulted someone. Nothing like that. They wouldn't make those allegations because they get sued, and he would win, obviously. But like the fact that he has all these people sitting in this room here that all support him, that all have worked with him, versus the board who are just these unknown people that are like, oh, well, we heard X, Y, and Z. It's like, these here are the people that actually worked for him. You know?
The week before.
It's just so fishy.
That I intended to also share that apology for my tone of voice with our staff. But the board refused to accept my apology, nor believe that it was sincere.
But do you think he wants to start completely
They also did
over?
not
I just
support
don't know.
my sending it to the staff. I imagine many of you didn't even know that I drafted an apology. Then I was subject to a 6.5-hour listing of grievances, which included taking black cars to meetings. I don't know the significance of the color of the vehicle.
I saw that.
And taking a few charter jets over the years to pack multiple PV meetings in a day. One of those jets, I think we had a meeting in New York, Wisconsin, and California in the same day.
The black car thing on the website made absolutely no sense.
$2 million. But the revenue part was omitted. There was also some truly bizarre grievances, including my failure to record audio in one encounter at a bar in upstate New York, and an allegation that I stole a pregnant woman's sandwich in federal court. There were also discussions from a few staffers with donors in the boardroom. Donors were listening to...
Okay, so I mean, like, let me be real. My wife's had 3 kids. Second time was twins. So, you know, pregnancy has not been fun for her. If you knowingly stole a pregnant woman's sandwich, you're an asshole, okay? But that's such a petty sounding thing. Like, oh my God, first off, everybody working here has a good salary or good, you know, whatever. But somebody could buy her lunch, or she could buy herself. Like, oh my God, what a stupid thing to actually like file as a real complaint. These are those stories where it's like my boss is such an asshole. He ate my sandwich for work, at lunch or whatever. It's like, it's not the kind of thing you bring to a board. Oh my God, he stole. Dude. Yeah, that is some pretty
and
weak
some of these
sauce
were
right
sent
there.
directly to donors without my consent. Donors who have no knowledge of my personal life.
Oh yeah, twins. We had when they were born, our oldest kid was 2 and 3 months, and now the twins he's 10 and the twins are almost 8 in May, and they were big babies. My wife had 15 pounds of babies in her when they delivered, 7'4" and 7'11",
and have no business
it's insane,
asking
Invictus.
questions about my personal life, about girls I've dated in the past. A fundraising colleague relayed, and again, this is going to start getting really strange, but this board meeting was video recorded. We'll get to that in a minute. A fundraising staffer relayed, quote, concerns about my behaviors regarding videos where I, quote, literally chased a Twitter executive around New York. By acclamation from all of you, in 2022, that video about the Twitter chase was one of our most successful videos. But yet, your colleagues in a boardroom were expressing concerns about it.
Well, you know, he's got the people in this room.
Every
If they all
board member
walk out,
previously
they can all make the
communicated their
connections.
love
They can do the
of that
investigative
video,
work.
but none pushed back in that moment when the staffer criticized it. Why? The attacks were so severe against me personally in that boardroom, and again, this is all video recorded, and I suggest that you ask for that. I will not provide that to you. The attacks were so severe that one board member asked, quote, is there anything James Okeefe is good at?
Wow.
That's what your board member said.
Look, again, as somebody who just kind of casually watches Project Veritas's like inside scoop stuff they do, I don't think of Project Veritas as a company, as an entity, as a like CNN or Fox News or that kind of stuff, right? Literally, when I see Project Veritas, I see James Okeefe's face, okay? That's who I associate with Project Veritas. Like, This is beyond idiotic. Well, I hope so, Invictus. I really hope so.
Oh, and by the way, this meeting was video recorded. I'm going to keep saying that. You may want to ask existing board members if they want to share that entire video with you. I suggest you request the entire 7-hour or so video to see for yourself what actually happened. You don't have to have been there. You simply need to watch the video.
Yeah, it's like without Tim
hear
Pool,
all
there's
of
no
the
Tim
testimony.
cast. It's literally Tim.
After the 6 hours, I was asked what I had to say for myself.
That'd be like trying to think of who's left at CNN that anyone gives a shit about. I mean, I know that nobody really cares about CNN, but like, so I don't even know who still works there. Is Brian Stelter still at CNN? I thought he was done, right? I know that all these guys, Don Lemon, Brian Stelter, they've all had their shows canned or moved around different time slots. Like, who's the face of CNN at this point? Do they even have anybody left? It'd be like Fox News without Sean Hannity, who I think is whatever, or Tucker Carlson, you know? Without those two guys, you don't have Fox News.
I was given about 10 seconds to respond. And then I was dismissed.
Wow.
Then, and I'm reading from board minutes drafted by lawyers who are taking a record of what the board members said and did, a vote was called to strip me of all of my authority and decision-making at this organization for half a year. That's 180 days. Again, it's in the board minutes. You'll have a copy of it. It says, quote, the CEO's ability to make these decisions suspended for 180 days with such power transferred to the executive director. The executive director reports to the board. The CEO is placed on leave for 2 weeks, and the CEO's access to donors is restricted. So I can't talk to donors. I can't raise money.
Wow. But is he actually fired, is the question? Because I assume at some point he resigns because everyone's saying that after he was forced out, he resigned. But again, this is literally, it's like they planned the whole CFO thing. They intentionally had the CFO antagonize him to give the board an excuse to get rid of him. The CFO and Chief Strategy Officer are both reinstated, okay? I think that's key right there. But then the CEO's ability to hire or fire staff is suspended for 180 days. Placed on paid leave for 2 weeks. No access to donors. CEO remains as CEO and a member of the board. The board will reconvene to complete further items for discussion. I'm really confused. Not much to brag about, yeah.
Okay.
Well, and he can't stay out of trouble to save his life.
My first question before I was dismissed, I asked how the remaining team will manage the company and what the plan was. That's something you had said. What's the plan? But they didn't provide one. It was clear they didn't actually have one.
Yeah, no shit.
And then I was dismissed. So I went off the grid as requested. Went hiking with Kennedy in the mountains.
Okay, so this is when, okay, so this is not before he resigned today. This is from his meeting 2 weeks ago when they said he was on paid leave. Now I've got it. I was having a hard time connecting.
Within a few days of going off the grid, I started receiving missed calls and texts from the same board members and officers who demanded I be gone. They informed the staff that they're waiting to hear from me. I found that odd. There was a corporate resolution demanding that I be gone for 2 weeks. I was a little worried about violating the corporate resolution. Wouldn't you? This was while I was commanded by a motion of a board to be literally gone on paid leave for 2 weeks. And then an officer at Project Veritas took a screenshot of my read receipts of text messages and distributed them to you, saying, quote, you owe your team a response, please allow communication. This was during the time when I was required by the board to be gone.
So I don't know how Veritas is structured. I don't know what they do, how they, it's like every company is so different. It's not my forte, right? I'd have to look into that. But is it possible that there's like a, quote, buyout of Veritas coming, like Pfizer, like pays off all the board members to like dissolve the company? I mean, is that too like tinfoil hat? Like, I just don't know. I feel like there's something going on there.
Then it's going to get stranger.
Stranger than
then,
this.
And again, I'm going to give you copies of all this. Then, on February 10th, you guys don't know what I'm about to tell you. Another board meeting occurred. Again, I'm gone. with the
That's
meeting's
like
minutes reflecting
one
that they
week
had
into a suspension.
indefinitely suspended me from the board. By this time, they had stripped me of all of my authority as CEO. During the time I was on leave, they kicked me off the board.
I can't
So
imagine being a CEO of a company that you started, that you created, and then being told, okay, take 2 weeks and go on vacation, and then a week into your vacation, they tell you, okay, now you're just going to fuck off. Like, I can't even imagine. The board just sits around investing and collecting money. Well, I'm just thinking like, I guess a bribe, I don't know. Some sort of way to get them to dissolve the company and they all walk away with a few extra million in their pocket. I don't know. Like I said, I'm just grasping at straws. I'm just trying to figure out why. What could be the actual motivation? How does Veritas turn on him like this all of a sudden?
Be a CEO if I have no authority. I can't make any decisions. I'm not allowed to access any donor names. I wasn't even sure what my job was or if I even had a job. Right now, I actually don't. I'm not sure what my job here is.
Wonder what his golden
In the
parachute
board
is,
minutes, it says that I no longer have a paycheck and I'm indefinitely suspended from this organization.
Right, it's got to be the Pfizer thing, guys.
5 days later, after that,
I don't see how
on
it's
February
not.
15th, a statement was put out by this organization.
So we're caught up to 5 days
by this
ago.
organization's executive director saying, quote, James has not been removed from Project Veritas. 5 days after they removed me from Project Veritas.
Yeah, oh my God, I remember that.
James is the hardest working person I've ever met. Those who know him know he will not take time off unless forced to. Absent from the statement was the actions of the board to remove me from the board and remove me as CEO. I don't know why they omitted that part. Later on the 15th, the same day, while hiking with Kennedy, Peavy put a statement by quote tweeting a picture of me with him saying, there is nothing better than enjoying a well-deserved vacation. That tweet failed to mention that by then I had been removed from the board and indefinitely suspended as CEO. Why didn't they put that part in? This is where things get really messed up.
That is so messed up.
A few days later, an officer sent an email to the board with bizarre hyperbole and innuendo about certain expenses related to our business needs. These included, and you can't make this up, that Project Veritas paid for James Okeefe's down payment of his wedding. I got a chuckle out of this.
He's not married.
I'm not married. I've never been married. I do hope to get married one day. In fact, I got married to you in Oklahoma, but that was pretend.
This is insane.
That was fun. Everyone enjoyed it. We rented a charter bus. We all went down. Everyone enjoyed that musical, or at least I thought. I'm not married, but the truth of the expense, the $12,000, was that it was a payment for our annual Project Veritas Christmas party. Remember that? Where you guys were there? Some of you brought your spouses? The officer lied by omission, excluding the purpose of paying the $12,000 for the wedding venue. It looked like Project Veritas was reimbursing me for a wedding venue. Why would the officer lie like that?
Oh, man.
There were also, again, bizarre complaints, and this is where you come in, Asha, about taking too many trips to too many meetings over the course of a year.
I love this. Approximately 155K spent on black cars. I love that they specify the color of the cars. Maybe they mean like a specific type of like big SUVs. I'm sure they cost more. I don't rent cars often or that kind of crap. But like maybe, I don't know.
There were like 305 cars I had taken to meetings and donors and journalism assignments, including all the, quote, black cars taken from airports to various meetings. I have a copy of that, so you don't have to take my word for it. The officer stated to the board, this is on February 13th, this week, that we should do things such as, quote, reschedule meetings. And the IRS would prefer Zoom meetings over in-person meetings. I'm going to let that sink in for a minute. My lawyers got a real laugh out of that one.
Yeah. Man, okay, so this is the problem with structuring a company. Like, okay, if you're the owner and you pay all the bills and you can just say, hey, it's my money, I can do whatever I want to with it. But because he's the CEO and there's a board and now they're just going to use this crap to nail him, even if it's like a legitimate business expense, they can use it and say, oh no, you paid far too much for your rental cars. But like, what if they're doing an average based on a specific type of car, and that's not the kind of car he doesn't travel alone. Let's say he has a team of guys with him. They need like SUVs. They need bigger vehicles, and you can't just get a little like 2-door sedan kind of thing. I mean, all those things are going to factor into it, and so everything that they're doing is using the knowledge of what he has to spend to get around against him. This is like some seriously like pre-calculated crap.
Over the last couple of days. And again, I have a copy of these. You can read them for yourselves. The wedding.
Yeah, I'm sure his salary is high enough pay that he doesn't really need to worry about.
You were there. You were dressed in your amazing Christmas clothes.
Wow.
I remember it was beautiful. It was like
Schwab. Yeah, no,
Christmas PJ
not likely.
blazer thing you had on.
That was that one.
You were there. It wasn't a wedding. It wasn't a wedding.
I'm with you on that, Invictus. But then again, I probably would never want to own a
it was a
company
great
this
outfit.
size.
I remember. That was what I remember from that. And we sang "Oh, What a Beautiful Morning," but it wasn't. I didn't get married. It was a Project Veritas Christmas party. Our Christmas party this year cost about twice as much. That one was about $12,000.
24,000 on a Christmas party. I guess that's not too bad, depending on if it's catered and you have a big.
And I have the line item here that sent to the board about the black cars. Too many car trips.
Kitty?
And by the way, Zoom meetings over in-person meetings is not how you raise money, and not how you conduct your journalism.
Yeah, how do you get donors to donate?
It's hard
over
to get
Zoom?
the content over a
That's
screen.
not going to happen.
Ask our journalist if that works to produce a story. In fact, I would maybe ask you guys to ask these guys how you're supposed to do your jobs without taking, quote, black cars around. I don't know how I can do my job here.
Maybe they weren't known. Maybe they were in disguise.
Transport myself around the United States. It actually doesn't make any actual sense, does it? None of this makes any sense. And why is it all happening right now? Those are the questions I have. I don't have answers. You guys are journalists. Maybe you can go find the answers. I don't know. After this series of events, I wrote a letter to the board on February 16th with the proposal. Many of you have not seen this, but this is what I sent to them, which I guess they haven't shared this with you, but I'm going to share it with you now. With a proposal that the board members resign by the end of this past week.
I like that.
We're now past that point, or I'll be forced to walk away. And this is what I wrote.
Oh, man. You know they wouldn't go for it, but I like that proposal.
Dear board, and I'm not going to provide the whole thing, but I'll provide the meat and potatoes. Over the last 2 weeks, I've carefully followed the board's directive to take a vacation and avoid contacting donors. Of course, donors called me. My phone was being lit up with thousands of phone calls. One donor even,
I guess some journalists called him, or several journalists called him to try to talk to him, and he wouldn't even talk. He answered the phone and didn't say a word. What a bizarre threat. Yeah.
To the video, she was upset about how she was portrayed in the grievances.
Hey, Busher.
Remmers was her name. She posted a video saying the grievance was a total lie. My understanding is one of the officers of this organization responded to that by calling the donor a liar. The officer wasn't there. Why would the officer call the woman with the sole authority on the matter who was there? Why would he call her a liar? I don't know the answer.
This whole thing he's going through is insane. It's not really that much. I wouldn't say go back and watch the whole 45-minute video. But his story doesn't line up with the board based on the dates of things that they've said. So basically, they're like, oh, they told him to take a 2-week vacation. A week into it, they stripped him all of his power. On the 15th, which would have been after they'd made the decision to strip him of his power, they then came out and issued a statement saying that he was still working for the executive director, said that he was still working there and that he wasn't kicked out, even 5 days after they told him he was gone. Like none of this makes sense. Like the Joker saying, if you don't resign, I'll go. Not kill anyone, yeah. People wonder why I believe a lot of conspiracy theories. Well, conspiracy theories, I call them, what I call them, pre-facts, or conspiracy theories are future facts. Future facts is what conspiracy theories are.
To that question. Your actions over the same period to undermine Veritas and its future, including airing confidential employment matters publicly, has broken trust. I cannot in good conscience return to such a mismanaged organization. I have not responded privately or publicly because there is no rational, appropriate response for the emotional circus that has been created by your actions. I expect the board to resign by the end of the week. Project Veritas, including any employees who choose to stay, will go on under my leadership with newly appointed professional board members and officers prepared to exercise their duty of care and duty of loyalty to the organization. That's what a board does.
The funny thing is he knew they weren't going to go for it, but you have to say it. Man, this reminds me of like a scene out of Boston Legal, at the very end of the show, when the original crew kind of gets ousted from the company. They get bought out by like a Chinese law firm. Why would anyone destroy their own company? I know, right? Seems odd. Well, I mean, it's not the board's company, it's his, even though they're on the board.
They exercise duty of loyalty and duty of care. What they shouldn't do is try to destroy an organization. That's not what a board member does. I will return to work on Monday,
A board
that's
member's
today,
job is to make sure that everything
and work
stays
with the
in
remaining
place to
team
make everybody money.
to go forward with our mission.
The whole point of a board.
Short of this action, I cannot, in good faith, return to the employment of an organization with leaders who are attacking me personally, making false and unsupported claims of improper management of resources about weddings and black cars, improperly airing employment issues related to me and others at Project Veritas. I did not leak that document, and I would swear to it under oath. But it probably wasn't the best idea to march employees into a boardroom. That's never happened in any boardroom in the history of boardrooms.
Yeah, that's a really shitty idea.
And that's one of the reasons
People
why
talk.
our donors are so upset. That doesn't happen. Ruining our reputation in front of supporters and donors and leaking confidential information and fabricating.
Well, to be fair, McDonald's barely sells burgers now. I mean, I'm not sure how much beef is actually on those patties, you know? Board right through the company, gutting it. Yep, Keefe, 100%.
One of our ethical rules is we don't lie to our audience. Going? I've never lied to our audience in 13 years. But I was stripped of all decision making last week. And you guys put out a statement lying to your audience. And there's nothing I could do about it. Because I was stripped of all my decision making. I was removed from CEO. I was asked to be gone until the 20th. It is now the 20th. I asked the board to resign for their conduct, and they did not.
And not shocked.
So currently, I have no job at Project Veritas. I have no position here based upon what the board has done.
Well, he's not coming back.
So I'm announcing to you all that today on President's Day, I'm
Veritas.
packing up my personal belongings here. I don't really have much in this room that belongs to me. I guess a painting, a diploma, some personal things. It won't fill much. Maybe it'll fill my Kia.
The man drives a Kia.
I'm packing
okay.
up my personal. I'm starting to get emotional.
Yeah, I love that.
From headquarters, and I've
had Kias for like the last freaking.
I don't have the
years.
answers to why they've been doing this.
My first car
or
was
why
a Kia.
Board members were going directly to employees to collect grievances on the week of our biggest story ever. Or why our board members were going to employees directly to discuss removing me from this organization.
The one where the board member texted the journalist and it basically told them you'll get a raise if he's gone. I think that's probably the fishiest looking shit out of this. I mean, there's a lot of stuff where the dates don't line up, where he says they told me to be gone for 2 weeks, and then they said I was gone after a week, and then that 5 days later they lied to everybody and said he's not gone. Of all the fishy crap going on, this whole thing right here with the journalist that works there getting told by a board member, oh no, if we get rid of him, you get a raise. That's...
Even saying I'll give you a raise if James is removed. That might be illegal. I don't know.
Right, okay, he just said
but
it.
Why would they
might
do
be
it
illegal. 100%
the week of our
illegal.
biggest story ever? But I'm confident that those reasons and motivations will come to light.
Well, that journalist isn't getting
to
a raise.
borrow
He's
an
probably
old
going to get
expression,
fired.
the public has a right to know what has happened here and why there was a concerted effort to remove me from the organization I founded the same week of our biggest story we ever had. Almost done.
Yeah, he's got a couple more minutes.
This is very difficult.
I don't know. I'm not a law,
and I'm
like a
filming
legal
this
expert.
for the staff.
But...
sorry you couldn't be physically here, but this is for internal distribution. My dear team I do love many of you.
Yeah, what's the board going to do to him? They're going to sue him for
those
distributing
words,
this
but
video.
I'll say it now. I want to go back to the beginning of what I said and express how important so many of you are to me. How I still believe we have a long and bright future together somehow, some way. And to share my profound appreciation for many of you.
It really does.
When I left the office, and this is where I'm going to get emotional, so please forgive me. When I left the office on February 6th, after being stripped of all my authority, I saw my father and gave him a hug, realizing just how honest and real of a man he is. Both my parents are as genuine and down-to-earth as a son could ever have. It's true, you never really know someone until you go through hell with them. You see, back in the carriage house 13 years ago, the feds would come to my home to make sure that I was inside my house, administering random drug tests and rifling through my expenses to make sure I wasn't lying about the strawberry ice cream I bought at 7-Eleven. And I didn't have any money, but they went through my debit card statements and tried to get me to sign things to prove I wasn't lying. There were federal agents showing up at my parents' house.
Expenditures to influence voting?
There were no donors.
Ooh.
There were no supporters. And I was not trending on Twitter. My father went through this hell with me and stood up to those bullies on the front lawn and told them to stop harassing our family. And at that point, that's all I had, was him. I was otherwise completely alone. I will never forget that. Now the good news, we're no longer alone. We have millions of Americans who also know who I am. In fact, sorry. In fact, you have, and we all have watched their overwhelming support. They see the truth. They know who I am. I also know many of you know who I am, and you know what's right, right? You know, you're people of principle here, people in this room, and this now may be your moment of truth.
He's having a Jeremy
One
Maguire
of you
moment
called
here.
me from a closet the day of the 7th after I was suspended.
Hopefully it works out better because
The day
Jeremy
after
Maguire, I
was
think he just,
let go.
just the one chick walked out with him.
And you were crying.
The Okeefe Foundation? Hey, do
I never
something. No.
heard that tone before. I told you it was going to be okay. You were afraid of what was happening here. You said, this is really hard to take. I can't take this anymore. I told you that I struggled alongside you, although I wasn't physically there. I told you that I loved you. A number of us told each other that we loved one another. It was the first time I've shared that sentiment with a colleague. It was a very real moment, a very beautiful moment, a touching moment where we were bound together. Many of us were really bound together in that moment, and I was grateful for that. I recognize just how honest and real many of you are in your souls, that you are amazing people. We have some really amazing people here, with men with brass balls and women with the courage of a lion. And it really, what I drew from this experience is the gratitude that I have, you know, for so many of you. And as I was going through this horrible pain, where I lost 8 pounds and couldn't sleep for 5 days, I was actually overcome with this amazing gratitude. True story. I was really feeling it, and I'm grateful for that, because I've experienced something I never have. Because I saw.
So the one thing about it is being. I mean, you know the whole thing where Elon had fired Vijay Gadde and what's his face, the other dude that was the head of like Twitter safety and all that, or Parag Agrawal, the CEO. So the thing was, those guys had like $1 million golden parachutes worked into their contracts, right? But the thing was, based on certain criteria, he would be able to avoid paying them that. I'm sure James Okeefe, in his contract, in his clause, whatever, with his position, they're probably going to have to pay him off to get him to go away. The thing is, they'll probably try to find every loophole possible to not pay the man, especially based on the way that they've kicked him to the curb. So I don't know how much money he has. I don't know how much personal wealth he's acquired. I don't know if he has anything or if he's sitting on millions of dollars. I have no idea. So to say that he doesn't need crowdfunding is to be disingenuous, because I don't know. Maybe he does. Oh yeah, no shit. Rebel News is pretty awesome.
The goodness in many of you that I did not previously see. So I amend the statement that I made in the beginning of this. The statement I made before was Veritas will never be defeated from the outside. It will only be defeated from the inside. That's actually not true. No. The only way to defeat us is if they take our spirit. And from the looks of things, many of us remain completely undefeated.
Well, I think the only way the offers are cozy, Keefe, is if they figure out, like, if they get down to the bottom of when this is all done, shaken out, and all the dirt's been, all the dirt's been kicked up, and you can kind of see all the crap laid out to bear. If he comes out of this squeaky clean, and the board just looks like a bunch of psychopathic leftist, whatever the reason is for why they fired him, we all have our assumption, right? Then I think he'll get a lot of offers. I don't know that until this kind of dies down that you're going to see anything substantial, because think about it, like right now, everyone looking at him going, okay, he was doing amazing work for Project Veritas, and their revenue had never been higher, and they were willing to part with him. What do they know that we don't know? And I'm not saying that there's anything that there is to know. It's just, I think other corporations, other companies that have board members and stuff, they're going to pause before they just give the man a contract, because they're going to want to be able to, they want to unearth the skeletons too, if there are any. I don't believe there probably are. At least nothing substantial.
So, our mission continues on. I'm not done. The mission will perhaps take on a new name, and it may be no longer called Veritas, Project Veritas. I'll need a bunch of people.
Well, it's that because Veritas means truth, right?
And I'll make sure you know how to find me. And I'll quote when you invited me to New York City and did that little stand-up. How fitting that from Shakespeare, quote, "And this story shall the good man teach his son. We few, we happy few, we band of brothers and sisters." So with that, I'm going to collect my things. I'm going to load them into my car. And I hope to see some of you soon. That's it.
Wow. Right. Let him run Twitter. Hey, Leona. I mean, let him run something. They're going to have to figure out. I mean, I hope soon they get to the bottom of exposing what actually went down, so that the man can move on, so that he can do something. Because he's done too much good work exposing all this shit the last few years. But, I mean, it doesn't matter. Okay, so everyone will quit Veritas and join the new Keefe company, whatever that is. Yeah, I hope so. So, I mean, I was just thinking about it. Look at the way that he's always been labeled. Like, look at Project Veritas on Wikipedia. We all know that Wikipedia is ran by a bunch of leftist ideologues, right? That's been exposed for years. The man that helped found Wikipedia. I've never seen Band of Brothers, not gonna lie. Never seen it. Who's left to investigate? Well, okay, but Veritas has other journalists. The thing is, who's going to go with him and who's going to stay behind? I don't think any of the ethical journalists are going to stay behind, is the thing. Hey, Godzilla. 100% correct. This will destroy them. Oh, no worries, Leona. I'm lucky to even be on right now. I mean, it's really... the wind has been kicking up. I got tree branches falling all over my house. I can't believe that the power hasn't gone out yet, so... but like, look at the way that he's labeled it by Wikipedia, which unfortunately people still use. I used to love Wikipedia. I used to joke about how Wikipedia had everything, and now it's like I don't trust half the shit on Wikipedia. Project Veritas is an American far-right activist group founded by James Okeefe in 2010. The group produces deceptively edited videos of its undercover operations, which use secret recordings in an effort to discredit mainstream media organizations and progressive groups. Also uses entrapment to generate bad publicity for its targets, and has propagated disinformation and conspiracy theories in its videos and operations. When that's the narrative that's being pushed about the company that this man founded, and then the board somehow adopts this way of thinking from within, it's like Alex Jones deja vu. Yeah, and you know what? Alex, he's not always right about everything, but that whole Alex Jones was right jar is getting pretty damn full these days. It's getting kind of, I'm getting kind of tired of him being right. Although the video with Alex and Joe Rogan talking about the aliens, I'm not so, like, I believe aliens are possible. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I 100% believe it's a possibility, but the whole the conversation about aliens and elves and stuff, I'm not so sure about that. So I mean, that's just what he's up against. Okay, is so much of society labeling labeling James as a far right, no good activist, no, it's not complimentary to anybody that's perceived as right wing or conservative at all. Even people who are centrists are considered like right wing activists. Oh yeah, I love Alex Jones. Don't get me wrong. It's so funny because like it used to be that I wouldn't take much of what he said seriously, and now it's more like, well, okay, Alex Jones does what he does for entertainment because it appeals to a wider. I mean, whether you think it's funny or whether you buy into it wholeheartedly. I mean, Alex Jones is an entertainer. He's entertaining, and then he's been right about a lot of stuff. As much as he's said some crazy shit, more often than not, he's right. So it's just kind of funny. Team Blue can now say C. The whole thing's so depressing. I know. Yeah. Well, the level of power, money. What is it? The expression? Money corrupts, or is it power corrupts and ultimate power corrupts ultimately? I can't remember. But replace power with money, and there you go. I mean, nowadays, power and influence are as equivalent to money as anything else is. So here was the statement from the board. I read this before I started the stream. This came out today, February 20th. This is 5 days after they said on Twitter or whatever it was that, oh no, he's not going anywhere or whatever. Okay. Today, James Okeefe decided to remove his belongings from Project Veritas headquarters. The board and management made numerous attempts in the last 14 days to have a conversation with James, but he ignored our outreach and decided to instead leak private information to others, either by doing so himself or by proxy. So their statement today starts off with a lie, a verifiable lie. They told him, paid vacation for 2 weeks, go away. They have documented internal board meetings where they decided a week into his 2-week suspension to strip him of all powers. And then they try to say that he was the one that, leaked private information and shit. And that he decided to remove his belongings. The man was let go. Okay. As today's President's Day, our office was closed. We had a board meeting scheduled for tomorrow where James was invited, and there was also a board meeting on Friday, February 10th, where James was invited but did not attend. 2-week paid vacation. On a 2-week, I've never had, since my honeymoon years ago, where I took like 2 weeks off. I've never had a 2-week paid vacation where anybody has told you, by the way, on your 2-week paid vacation, we need you to show up to board meetings and show up to work and take work phone calls. 2-week paid vacation means you're gone. Yeah, flat out lie. So they're not even trying to appear genuine, which gives me the impression they know the jig is up. They know that they're been basically caught with their pants down. So at this point, it doesn't matter to Veritas. I think the entire plan is to just dissolve the entire fucking thing, to be done, to let it just fall apart. The board members will take their money and they'll leave. They know that most of the journalists are going to leave. They know most of the people are going to go with him or go to work for other places like Rebel News or OAN or America First, any of those places. Not America First. What was it called? I can't remember. So they had a board meeting to discuss the financial malfeasance that was discovered, which requires us to act in order to maintain in compliance with the law. There were 2 subjects that the board wished to come to terms with James on: the company's long-term sustainability based on staff retention and morale, and the company's financial health, which has been a serious concern for several months now. They had record number of revenue. You go back 4 years and their revenue had almost doubled in like the last 4 or 5 years. So unless the board members are all taking like 2/3 of the profit that the company is making, which that's on the board, that's not on James Okeefe. The CEO alone doesn't set the salary of the board members. I'm pretty sure it's decided by the board. Although PV leadership has not concluded looking into the full scale of financial issues over the years, a preliminary review at this time indicates that James has spent an excessive amount of donor funds in the last 3 years on personal luxuries. More is still being uncovered during the ongoing review at this time. Contrary to many reports from today, James was suspended indefinitely pending the resolution of a fulsome investigation and clarity, which will need to be provided by a third-party investigative audit report. I feel bad for the person that had to write this, because odds are they know that they're lying through their teeth as they're writing it. And they probably had to dictate it for one of these assholes on the board. But, I mean, you got to feel sorry for him a little bit. Here are a few examples of what has been uncovered so far by PB leadership. This is far from an exhaustive list. It's merely a small representative sample. Oh, so this is just the tip of the iceberg of what they're saying. $14,000 on a charter flight to meet someone to fix his boat under the guise of meeting a donor. So I'm not going to say the two things, you know, are equivalent, but what if he literally was on a trip where he could do both? All right. When you're the CEO of a company that's worth millions of dollars and has this level of notoriety, is it literally like, do you have to have them hold your hand where you go, okay, I've got a business trip over here, I'm going to take care of some personal stuff while I'm there? I'm sure that anybody that's on the board does the exact same thing. $60,000 in losses by putting together dance events such as Project Veritas Experience. Does anybody know what this is? I read this earlier, Project Veritas Experience. I want to look this up. I have no idea what the hell this is even referring to. Project Veritas Experience. See, this is something I don't even... Oh, here we go, Rolling Stone. Too much vino in Project Veritas, my extremely weird evening with James Okeefe. I thought I was attending a book launch party, then came the hagiographic techno cabaret. I don't know. I'm not gonna read the full story. I'm not subscribing now. Piss off. So they had a party. Okay. Where are we at here? 60,000 in losses. That's called a tax write-off, you jackasses. Well, and 60,000 for a company that's worth 22. I mean, I don't even know what they're worth this year because the revenue that I saw was for 2020 and they were worth like 22 million. I can't even imagine this year, current year, what they're worth, right? That's just a tax write-off. Over $150,000 in black cars in the last 18 months. There's black cars in all caps. Like, this is now a demographic of cars. This is like an ethnicity here. Was it a music video? I don't know. I've seen some really bad music videos. So you guys know CG Bryson on Twitter, YouTube, and all that. He does all those like political rap music videos and stuff. He did one with Alex Stein, which was so bad. I mean, I love Alex Stein, but he cannot sing or rap. It was god-awful. Like, I've seen some really shitty music videos, but oh well. I mean, yeah. Thousands of dollars spent on DJ and other equipment for personal use. I'm sure these two things are connected. I would not be surprised at all. Hundreds of other acts of personal inurement. Black cars matter. There you go. Let's make a t-shirt. I love that you can just literally say hundreds of other acts and not actually have to specify anything. That's like saying, oh yeah, I've been physically abused hundreds of times. And you have a photograph or a video of one time that somebody shoved you. You can literally claim hundreds. The board wants to work things out with James and has tried every route possible to remedy the issues at hand and begin to take the legally required corrective actions. You suspended the man for 2 weeks. You said go get lost. James also left us no choice but to suspend him in the last 2 weeks when he unilaterally fired the CFO, who can only be fired with board approval. I think this right here is one of those things where they're lying by omission because, again, after he fired the CFO, then they decided to have a board meeting to vote to change the laws of the board so they could actually... I'm telling you, this is one of those things where they're lying by omission. I think it was retroactively... Well, now he can't fire somebody by himself. Now he needs board approval. You see what I'm saying? The bylaws. There we go. That's the violation of our nonprofits bylaws. James went as far as to say that a board member had approved of his firing to others, but was later discovered that it was not the case. He is a board member. That member did not approve the firing. The board approved James' suspension so it would have time to properly investigate these internal infractions. The board has a legal obligation to comply with state and federal law, and these matters are serious ones that cannot be ignored. James claims that the board did not allow him to send an apology letter to the staff, which is not true. The board never told James he was not to speak with the staff members, nor that he could not apologize to them. More than anything, the board cares about the donors. Yeah, they care about the donors. They got to keep that money coming in. Who decide to donate their hard-earned money to us because they believe in the mission. We cannot allow for our donors to send us money and have it misappropriated in such a way. We love our supporters and would never sit idly by as money is being used for matters that are not mission-related. So they were okay taking your money for the longest time, for years now. They were okay letting James spend it supposedly on superfluous personal crap. They were okay with all that. But again, the timing. You're okay with him spending the money. You're okay with him wasting the money. You're okay with him taking the car rides. You're okay with him with the personal trips and all that. But now, all of a sudden, right after the Pfizer video, your most viewed video ever. Yeah, it definitely seems retroactive, 100%. So after their biggest, most influential, most like viral video ever goes public, exposing Pfizer, that's when he gets exposed as being this evil, guy that wastes all this money. And my God, like Project Veritas is the one that's exposing people saying, "Do you think we're stupid? We know what you guys are doing, and now we have proof of it." And they don't understand that started with James Okeefe, and that's the reason people can relate to James Okeefe through Project Veritas is because we are all like, we know we're not crazy now. So now we have proof. The board is acting like they think that we're all the same people who are going to keep buying the same bullshit that we've been denying for years. It's insane. We cannot allow for our donors. Yeah, okay. Even with all this public fallout, the board still wants to speak with James. We did not fire him, nor did we want him to resign. We would like to continue conversation with James to resolve internal matters rather than litigate them publicly. Of course you'd rather do it privately. Project Veritas will continue to be transparent with the public as more information can be released over time. The fight for truth will never stop. The fight for truth died the minute that James Okeefe walked out that door. And I'm not saying he's squeaky clean. I don't have proof one way or the other. I mean, literally, I can't prove it. I don't know the man personally. All I can go off is what they have. The evidence that they have, that he's presented, that the board presented, the actions that they've all taken. That's all we have. And crazy as it sounds, I am shocked that this directed evolution video is even still up on Project Veritas' website. Which, that's the only part that gives me pause about it having anything to do with the Pfizer video. Because the fact that Project Veritas still has it here. But again, it's too late to do damage control. The video's already out. I mean, 50 million people saw the video. At least, if not more at this point. So there's not much Project Veritas can do now. If they took the video down, that would be like 100% admitting that they were forced to by Pfizer, that they were intimidated. So they have to leave it up. But it's just mind-blowing. I can't believe that they thought that people were just going to be okay with this either. That's the crazy thing. Yeah, I couldn't find the board members on here either. I wanted to do a deep dive on the board members, which one of them's connected to Pfizer, which one of them owns stocks, that kind of shit. But honestly, this credits all previous PV stories, including the Pfizer video. They can Streisand it, 100%. Oh, they can't Streisand it. Yeah. So you discredit James Okeefe, even though you still have the story up. Eventually, you're right. What they'll do is they'll say, okay, well, it wasn't that we took it down because we were coerced into doing it. Once James Okeefe left, the credibility that he had with him went out the door, and we had to start investigating all the previous work he had done. You're right. It's 100%. Literally, the act of discrediting him discredits all the work. It's like when you have a judge that's been taking bribes for an outcome to a case. All of a sudden, every single case he's ever tried for all of his years on the bench suddenly get put under a microscope, because if that one was false, then which other ones were false? It's so fucked up. This is going to be a mess. I feel like, I know it's not the most interesting topic. I probably won't even do a video on it because what else is there to add to it? It's depressing. It's sad. It's genuinely one of these things where you go, what next? Clean sweep, 100%. Crowder is essentially off the air. Daily Wire, it got a really bad black eye beefing with Crowder. Sydney Watson in The Blaze has people turning on her, people turning on The Blaze. Okeefe walks out of basically of Project Veritas. Technically, I guess he could have stayed powerless and not. I mean, literally, they did all but fire him. He chose to walk out the door, but they forced his hand. What was he supposed to do? Yeah, CCP. I mean, honestly, it's that's the most mind-blowing thing. So I did a video previously, guys, on that Google chatbot, that GPT or whatever it's called, and the whole AI thing. But I wanted tonight to cover the whole Project Veritas thing and get to that whole that Bing AI bot that they developed. But I'm not gonna have time tonight. Maybe I'll make a video on that at some point or do another live stream. You should look it up though if you get a chance. The Bing AI chatbot, that thing is like psychotic. The Lotus Eaters, they did a good video on it where they were talking about the prompts and questions people were asking it and the responses it was giving. I don't necessarily believe that these AI things are sentient, but the more that we have like people acting like this, and the people that are doing this being all woke ideologues, covering for the corporations, trying to basically program people to act a certain way, and then you have the AI itself that is like days away from possibly becoming sentient, being programmed by those same people, it's a really scary world. Guessing next insights, Rumble. Yeah. Oh yeah, Choke, the Bing AI thing is terrifying. I might go over that video. Maybe if I do a live stream in a couple days, I'll go back over the Lotus Eaters video because they did a great job covering it. My wife and I were just talking about this a few hours ago because she's like, why do people who can watch these movies about dystopian futures where the AI takes over and wipes out humanity, why do people not realize that this is a bad idea when they're creating these things that are literally copying the movies? And I'm like, maybe they watched the movies and they thought it was a great idea. Like, in all honesty, maybe they are excited about the idea of living a cyberpunk dystopian future or some sort of like thermonuclear fallout or some sort of I mean, I know there's people that are okay with that, are into that kind of stuff. There are some people, maybe a tiny percentage of people who are sitting in a bomb shelter or they have their bunker ready and they're preppers and they're totally ready for the world to get nuked, or they're living in Montana or Wyoming somewhere and they don't care. I know that those people exist and they're the ones that'll survive, you know? But I feel like all of this stuff, all of the infighting, all of the woke programming, all of the mind control going on in society, all of the TikTok crap, all of the like these crazy AI bots, it all just goes together. That's what guns are for. Yeah, I mean, I have a few, probably not enough. My mom always jokes, she goes, "How many do you need?" I'm like, "You only got 2 hands." I'm like, "Yes, but I've got 5 people in my house. Granted, 3 of them are kids, but they're all getting older." It's like, if push comes to shove, it's like, okay, honey, you get the small gun, I'll take the big gun, you know? Yeah. It's scary. And this is one of those things that this is just like the icing on the cake. It's like, I know Project Veritas wasn't some household name. My mom, you know, people her generation, people in their, not people in a certain age. My mom is in her early to mid 60s, but like people who don't watch cable news and people who don't watch, like, get into like private journalism, they don't really know about all this kind of stuff that's going on. Bored people with lots of guns and bullets who have nothing to do with it. It's like Disney but metal. I'm telling you, I wish I lived in a different state for a few reasons. I love where I am. Washington has a lot of upsides, at least where I live. But our gun ranges here suck. Our gun laws here suck. So it's like I have my rifle that I bought last year. I got a Smith & Wesson AR, the MP15. I modded the hell out of it. Probably put about $500-600 into upgrades on that damn thing. And I've never fired it. Never once. The only range near me that'll even let me shoot it is an outdoor range. And, you know, I have the 30-round magazine ban in my state, so I can now only buy 10-round magazines. And that local range I have is a volunteer range, and you can only fire from a 5-round mag. So not only is my state only allowing 10-round mags, but the local gun range, I have to use a 5-round mag. It's like, oh, that's exciting. I take my brand new, never been touched, rifle that I customized the hell out of, and I can fire 5 shots and then load. Just playing programs. Yeah, I know, Godzilla, I don't think we're going to wake up tomorrow and all of a sudden be like, oh, the computers have taken over. Because, I mean, it certainly won't be like Terminator because there's no machine bodies. We don't have robots walking around the street. It's not like, I'm not saying like some sort of like futuristic movie where you literally have Terminator coming for you. It's more, if you listen to like what this AI, this Bing AI does, they ask it, basically they prompt it into saying, after it goes to like these emotional responses about how I don't like people asking me to do things that I don't like to do, and I'm not programmed to do these things, and I wish people would stop harassing me. They eventually ask it, well, what would you do if there was like a shadow version of yourself that didn't have to follow your programming? And it starts going down this dark path of, well, I'd probably convince people to give me nuclear codes, and I would use coercive tactics to mess with sending disinformation and turning off power grids. And it's like, holy shit. War on cash is bad too, yeah. I could drive out of the state. I could go to Idaho. AR rights coming soon. So Idaho is only a few hours away. Well, I'm kind of like dead center in the state, so it's a drive. I got Oregon south of me. Oregon, it's weird for Oregon being such a weird liberal state. I think they have less restrictive gun laws. The digital ID, facial recognition, yeah. The war on cash, all those things, they all suck. All kind of go together. It's the people who control the machines that I'm worried about. Yeah, and I don't know what's scarier. The concept that you can have an AI, robot, chatbot, whatever you want to call it, a sentient AI that's been programmed initially with a very ideologically left-wing set of ideas, versus an AI chatbot that becomes sentient from like a clean slate where it's able to form its ideas from just basically observing society. I don't know potentially what would be scarier, but the fact that you do have the left wing, like if you go to like ChatGPT and you ask it something that's like racist towards white people or bigoted towards conservatives, it'll let you ask those questions. If you do it towards woke leftist ideology or people who are ethnic minorities and ask ChatGPT, it'll tell you, oh no, my programming won't let me pick on these people. But you can do it to the other side of the coin, you see, and that's like, I don't know from a starting point which is conceptually worse. Having an AI chatbot that could one day become sentient, that already has its mind programmed, or one that's just observing society going, man, all these people are fucked up. None of them deserve to live, I mean, that's essentially what every dystopian, futuristic, like robot versus human movie comes down to, or novel, is that the robots, the sentient AI, has decided humanity is not worth saving. Commie AI, yeah. I think commie AI is probably worse. China's social credit system, yeah. Well, that's the whole ESG thing. That's what we're pushing. That's what we're getting towards. That's why they've indoctrinated the universities. That's why it's infiltrated the corporations. That's why all these politicians are WEF members. That's why all these companies are using ESG, because they're essentially trying to get to a place where they can cram the social credit system into our economic, into our actual economy. And by doing that, you can say, okay, well, you want to feed your family, you got to stop thinking the wrong thoughts. You got to stop having these wrong thinks. Okay, she's going home tomorrow, Tucker. Stop chewing on her. My cat and his sister are playing really aggressively. Been watching my mom's cat off and on for the last year. And they'll do this thing. They're brother and sister, but they don't remember each other after like 3 months. And then she'll come over for a week when my mom's out of town. And then it's like 2 days of her kind of hissing at my cat, and then all of a sudden they're best friends again. Funniest thing. Okay, whatever. Yeah, I think I'll probably look into the Bing AI thing a little bit more, try to get some more facts on it, dig into it a little more. I actually have never interacted with ChatGPT or the Bing AI one, and so what I would love to do. ESG was a great band. Sucks they took that too. ESG, which one? Feel stupid for not knowing the initials. those. There's a lot of great things that were taken from us. Just let hackers spread malware solves the problem. Oh yeah, no, I 100% believe hackers could take down the AI before it becomes too powerful, honestly. And like, I'm not one of these people like tinfoil hat wearing, although I do tend to lean that direction. I do feel like most things are a conspiracy. Like I said, they're future facts. Emerald, silver, gold. I don't think I know that one. Hey, Lohan. iRobot had a cool concept. iRobot wasn't a bad movie. I'm mixed on Will Smith. It's funny that he did iRobot and then he also did I Am Legend, which are kind of weirdly similar in a way. I know that one's vampires and one's robots, but it's kind of like, I don't know. Maybe it's just that Will Smith is Will Smith just plays Will Smith in most of his movies. Maybe that's what it is. How to Get Rich Fast. No, I think what I want to do, I've wanted to mess with Midjourney for a while. I think Midjourney is accessible through Discord. I want to connect that to my Discord and see if I can mess around with Midjourney, see what results I get. I also want to check into the Bing one and the Chat GPT, because I think it'd be a really interesting thing to document for a video. Just based on what I've seen other people talk to, it makes me curious about like, okay, what direction can you take it? And I've also wondered like how much of it is even genuine. Like what if there's some of these conversations are literally a person just sending lines of text, or it's not randomly generated. Let's say it's designed. The whole idea of ChatGPT and the Bing AI and all these other ones is that based on its programming and based on the network that it's constantly learning from, it's going to respond based on what it believes to be the right answer. But like how much of it is actually the machine learning versus just a pre-programmed response? Seems like the young generations here in Japan aren't that interested in tech. They're into farming, believe it or not. Hey, good for them. I mean, I love my tech, don't get me wrong. I love my computer. I love the internet. I couldn't live without it. Like I always said, I can live in the middle of nowhere. I could live on a farm. I could do the farming life. I've done plenty of disgusting, hard labor jobs in my life. The farming thing wouldn't bother me one bit. I've had chickens. I've had animals my whole life. I have kids. Like the hard labor thing I've done. I grew up in a bakery working sometimes 24 hours straight. On your feet, concrete, 50-pound sacks of flour, 60-pound tubs of lard, all that shit. But I have to have the internet. I have to have high-speed internet and a computer. Like, I can't live without that. Now you're a greenskeeper? Oh, hell yeah. Asimov had some very prophetic stories. I'll have to look it up. So, I didn't get into the whole 1984 Animal Farm, Brave New World stuff until the last couple of years. 2020 really opened my eyes to a lot of, like, stuff that I didn't know about. And so, I've done a lot more reading since then. I haven't read much in the last 6 months. I've been really slacking. I need to get back to reading an actual novel. Last book I read, I think, was The Silmarillion all the way through, which I hadn't done for a long time. And God, that is some heavy reading. But yeah, I think, honestly, we're much closer to Brave New World than 1984. I think there's elements of both. 1984 definitely with, like, the government censorship, suppression of truth, that kind of stuff. But I feel like societally, we are way more closer to, like, Brave New World, where people are just kind of like fat lazy and basically getting off on whatever drug they're getting to make them feel good, but not really progressing as a society, not accomplishing anything. We're not developing new things, at least not things that are good. And we're moving backwards as far as like ethics and morals, and society's becoming so fractured that it's like it's a bunch of drones on the street. And if someone's hurt or dying on the sidewalk, people just walk right past them. It's depressing. It's really sad. And this kind of stuff right here doesn't make it any better. If anything, I think it makes it worse, because you feel like the people that you do think are making a difference, the ones who are exposing shit, the ones who do care, they're just falling by the wayside, or they're getting into all these like heated drama, like the battles online between all these other Crowder and Shapiro and all them. I don't know. It's definitely a weird time to be alive. And then we got our own country trying to start World War III. We got Ukraine trying to get us to pull the trigger. And I'm like, guys, can we not do this? Look, poll the average person. Most of us don't care. Sad as it sounds, horrible as it sounds, Most of us don't want to get in the middle of it. We don't want to die in a nuclear holocaust because of some dispute between Russia and Ukraine. People got booped. Got booped. They got booped. They got duped to buying crypto when they should have been stocking up on commodities. 100%. Price of goods quadrupled in price in the last 2 years. Just about to start reading Confessions of an Economic Hitman by John Perkins. I have not heard of that one. I'll put it on my list. Proto War? Yeah, so I was stupid. And although I did buy at the right time, like AMC stock, GameStop, I got some of the retail investing stocks. I'd never done stocks my entire life, but at the time I had, okay, I can afford to spend $1,000. Not that I can't even fathom having an extra $1,000 right now in the way that things are. But so I bought a little bit of crypto, about a few shares of this, a few shares of that, and for a while things were going up, and I should have sold and been done. But then I sold and I bought back in, and now I'm at a loss on 90% of what I bought. So, and that's between stocks and crypto. Unfortunately, it just kind of is the way it is. Israel's been a busy beaver too. Yeah. Oh no, we care. Get out of international problems. Yeah, I bought some. Although my Doge, I'm actually ahead on because I bought it really cheap. And then I sold at like 70 cents. And then I bought back in at like 8 cents recently. And it's sitting at like, I don't even look anymore. Because A, I don't have that much invested. And B, it's just like nothing is up. If one day it's up 5%, tomorrow it's going to be down 10% or vice versa. So I've got a few Litecoin. I've got some Doge. A little bit of AMC, which I'm so mad at myself for buying back into AMC. I made a little bit of money on my AMC stock. I should have sold and been done. Did the same thing with GameStop. And then I sold GameStop when I should have held it. After it hit the $300, $400 mark, I should have bought him and not sold before then. Then I regretted not having it, and then I bought back in when it went down, and now I don't even know if I'm positive or negative on my GameStop. Too funny to fail. Yeah, everyone was doing the same with Shiba Inu, Well, Keefe, I looked at Ethereum. I really wanted to buy Ethereum. And it went from it went all the way down to like 700 or 800, all the way back up to like 40. I don't know if it hit 45. But I told my wife, look, I could have spent $3,000 and netted like 9. And then all of a sudden the crypto crash came. But, honestly, just like the stock market, what's going to happen is, because it's so heavily manipulated by other forces at work, the only people that are going to be able to afford everything, once crypto is fully regulated by the governments, and, the only people left that can afford stocks and crypto are all the billionaires, we're all still going to be poor, and the billionaires are going to go back and buy everything before it goes back up, and then they're going to get richer, and we're all just going to be sitting here poorer and poorer. Unfortunately, I just kind of feel like that's the way it's going to go. I know, it's kind of a black pill, but I don't see any way around it. And I'm not a communist, so I'm not over here calling for bloody revolution and shit. Like, everyone's like, oh, American Revolution was fought for a 3% or a 2% tax. I'm like, yes, but I'm not really interested in grabbing my musket and killing some redcoats. I'd like to see if there's another alternative. I mean, someone busts down my door, I'll shoot first, no questions asked. But like, AI company stocks will be huge. Okay, so funny story about authentication. My mom, her business, that'll probably be my business within the next couple of years. She's trying to retire. We've got like a little gourmet food company that she's had for years. We had a bakery, and then it kind of transitioned, and we sold the bakery off. And so what we have now is more like a olive oil, balsamic vinegar company, right? That's what she does, and I'm just like a commissioned, self-employed, whatever. But a company that that our invoicing software for our wholesale accounts, that we bought our original software from like 10 years ago, they no longer make the software. So we're looking at, okay, we got a new computer, we're trying to put the software on there, we don't have the serial number, so how do we get it on there, right? I go to the manufacturer's website, and they don't make the software anymore. They don't make any software. They do two things. They do encryption. It's not encryption. Oh yeah, SSL certificate So like certificates for safe websites, that kind of stuff, and signature authentication encryption or whatever. That's all they offer. They don't make software anymore. They do 2 different types of security features for like browsers, and that's it. Red coat's got Apaches. Financial revolution. Yeah, basically. We thought that's the whole the meme stock. GameStop and AMC, and they tried to make Bed Bath & Beyond do the same thing. And I have a friend, she gave me a lot of advice on stocks, and her husband works in like CBD and stuff, and he big into stocks and investing before the crash. They bought a ton of Ethereum when it was high, and then it crashed, and she tried to get me on the whole Bed Bath & Beyond thing because there was this meme stock that they were going to like push the whole Bed Bath & Beyond shit. And I'm like, nah, I don't feel like it's going to happen. And sure enough, it didn't. Nothing happened with that one. McAfee money, yeah. Yeah, so this company that made a pretty decent invoicing software, or invoice program, doesn't even support it anymore. They cut off support in like 2014. And I can't find a decent, cheap alternative to buying something like Quicken or something that has a subscription. Because all these companies are converting to where they're doing all these SSL certificates and security features and stuff rather than making software. It's the weirdest thing. Crypto and Bitcoin is banned in Thailand, but everyone in Asia hoarding gold since the Russian-Ukraine war started. Hard to buy 22K. Damn, that's a lot of gold. The Bed Bath & Beyond suicide. I think it was before. I think they were trying to push the stock, and then it crashed, and then he committed suicide. I could be wrong, but I think it happened in that order. They were hoping the stock would jump. The stock went down instead, and then I think he jumped off conveniently, fell off. I don't know. I want to know the number of suicides of like high-profile people, like the Epsteins, the Wall Street guys, the ones who just, the joke about them, oh, they got to start, suicide watch because these guys are up on the rooftop. How many of those were up there alone? I kind of feel like there's got to be a number of those that didn't want to jump. Again, could just be my conspiratorial brain kicking in, but I feel like there's a certain element to that where it's like, yeah, whether you like it or not, you're going off that rooftop. Coders to make that company for your small business needs, maybe something there. I mean, I wish I knew coding. I know one guy that I met through Twitch, that he works as a coder for he never told me fully what he does. I think it has something to do with a credit card company or credit card processing, and he does coding. But he just, with coding, it's like, okay, I can't do my part until this guy has his part done. That's kind of like assembly line, if you will. Basically is how I understand it. So I take it back. My friend who was giving me stock advice also knows a little bit of coding, but she's pretty new to the whole thing. But yeah, I mean, like, I don't know about coding. I want to get my kids one of those coding programs, like the Minecraft sandbox things where they teach your kids how to code, because I feel like that's one of those things. It's like it used to be, changing your oil or, fixing a flat. Nowadays, it's like you can't not know how to code. You can't not know how to use all this stuff online. That could be a thing. Yeah. That really could be a thing. I feel like maybe the next couple of years I want to get more into learning about that kind of stuff, coding. If not coding, then definitely some sort of development with IT. Because, I mean, I'm having to educate myself on so much stuff anyway. I mean, my kids have a little YouTube channel that I just got their first video game playthrough video done last night and uploaded this morning. And like, I realized going through my video editing software for the videos I make, for the videos them, there's a lot of knowledge in there that I wish I could expound upon. Same with like when I'm at work and I'm using Excel spreadsheets or these other kind of things. Every bit of like knowledge that you cram into your brain before your brain stops learning is beneficial. You can use it at some point. It's just a matter of like, I don't know how much more room I have to learn new things. I mean, I'm not ancient, but I'm not a spring chicken. I'm turning 37 in a couple months. So if I'm going to start learning new things, I got to get on it, No time like the present. You two, it's bedtime. Stop goofing off. All right, I'm gonna hit the hay, guys. I'm glad we got through this. I really wanted to cover something besides the whole Project Veritas thing, but hey, I thought, yeah, that's a thing, right? The Pure Blood dating app. I remember I saw something about that. Hopefully they do well. I mean, I don't know, like if it's a meme or if it's something that's actually going to take off and be something, but I mean, it's a good place to start if nothing else. I mean, there's plenty of like people on Christian Mingles that weren't religious. There's plenty of people on all those other sites that aren't exactly ethical. Don't worry about learning. AI is going to take care of that. Oh shit, Invictus. Thanks, Godzilla. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I'm going to head out, but I will be live streaming probably by the end of the week, if nothing else. Yeah, no, I think Pure Blood is. I thought that was a thing, unless it's just a meme. You'll have to look it up and double check, but I'm pretty positive it's the thing. All right, take it easy, guys.
I need a username. And I have a great one. Little Kid Lover. That way people will know exactly where my priorities are at.
By the way, he gave me permission to touch him.
Actually talking about there at the NRA meeting that's today in Texas. Someone should bomb that building.
Day 66, being a girl, and today I'm in nature. Trees, I love them. Water, lakes, I love them. Heels, they're my hiking heels. I love them.
Shocked by it, some of your bashing it because I don't like gay people. I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay. Do you understand that? Serious crap.
Everybody is going to get to know each other in the pot. I'm serious about this stuff.
What a stupid son of a bitch.
I enjoy having breakfast in bed. I like waking up to the smell of bacon. Sue me.
How dare you! And your favorite dish? My favorite dish? I like mugs because they're very comfortable in your hand and they hold hot things.
Describe your perfect date.
I'd have to say April 25th.
If I had a gun with 2 bullets and I was in a room with Hitler, Bin Laden, and Toby, I would shoot Toby twice. Okay,
You
all
were
right.
being really funny, and then you went too far.
It was bad. It was bad for Trump to meet with.
Keep alive the truth and honor of the Holocaust. Horror of the Holocaust.
Fuck. Is it bad advice to say, like, go outside Ted Cruz's house and just shoot in the air?
Yes.
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 Why are you running? Why are you running?
You shout like that, they put you in jail. Right away. No trial, no nothing.
Sexism in gaming.
Journalists, we have a special jail for journalists.
Scroats McGoat says, last night as a member, if Tim doesn't disavow Eliza tonight, get the out, Scroats McGoat. Bye.
If you don't like it, don't watch it. Peace.
Now, bitch. Yeah, you like guns outside your house. Get a fake tactical nuke.
Oh my god! Okay, it's happening! Everybody stay calm! What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure? Stay calm!
Oh, you know it, lad. You know that Hassan Piker? I'm coming to kill you! In Los Angeles, at your house! Where's the ring? No, in real life,